All right, welcome to our Greater Vancouver Zoo. My name is Haley from Learn Fort Langley, and we are here with Kat from the Greater Vancouver Zoo. Kat, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great day so far. It's a little cloudy today, but some of our animals love that kind of weather because a lot of them don't like the heat so much. So they usually go inside their barns or they can come out. It depends if they choose to come out in this kind of weather. But today we have a really interesting presentation, and we have another reptile that I brought out today. And he can be about this big to about this big. So they can be about 50 to 80 grams in weight, and their length is about 18 to 28 centimeters. Now I want you guys to think, what kind of reptile would I have brought out that's about 18 to 28 centimeters? I know you're all muted, so I don't expect you guys to answer, but we are going to be talking about the common leopard gecko. Not the car insurance, but the actual common leopard gecko. So I do have a common leopard gecko here for you guys to meet in just a little bit. And his name is Barnabas. And where we got Barnabas is he was donated to the Greater Vancouver Zoo. So like I've said to you guys about our previous reptiles before, is we usually get them from illegal pet trades, or they used to be people who owned them in the past and they just couldn't take care of them anymore. So they donated it to the zoo for us to use as ambassadors and educate everybody about this type of reptile and how much care goes into taking care of these little guys. Now they are a type of lizard as well. Now, the cool thing is the skin of the common leopard gecko is very durable. So it provides them protection from the rough sands or the dry deserts that they can be found in. So where you would find these guys located in the wild is in Pakistan, Afghanistan, northwest of India, and some parts of Iran. So that's where these guys would be found. And they usually like to hide under rocks. Okay, so they'll go under and burrow under so that they are not seen from predators. And the predators that would go after these types of lizards are snakes, foxes, and large reptiles. So they need to be able to hide. And when I do bring Barnabas out to show you, take a really good look at his color patterns as well, because they can also help camouflage him in his environment too. We have to look for him sometimes when he does dig in his enclosure. But these guys, they come out around dusk to eat, so the twilight time. They like to either hide during the day so that their predators don't see them quite as well. But around twilight zone, they will come out and eat on either crickets, mealworms, centipedes, spiders, any type of insect. So that's what they would eat. That's what we feed Barnabas at the zoo. We feed him a lot of crickets and mealworms. Loves that stuff. So that's their diet. What else can I tell you about them? They shed their skin about once a month, but when they are babies, they're called juveniles. They shed their skin about twice a month. And I have a set of skin here, but it's not from a common leopard gecko. It's from a tegu gecko, which we do have at the zoo. But I wouldn't bring out a tegu gecko because they're quite aggressive. So here is his shedding. You can take a good look at that. So that's the type of skin that would come off of a gecko, and you can see his little bumps that he has there, and his eyelids are right there, his eye. So that's pretty cool, and it feels very smooth, you know, like some skins that we have from our reptiles, like snakes. They all have different textures when they shed their skin. So this guy has a very interesting texture too. It's a little bumpy here, but very smooth in some areas too. So that's pretty cool. So we like to keep sometimes our reptile skins in jars to preserve them so that we can use them for educational purposes like today, and then we label it tegu gecko. Okay guys, so I'm gonna bring out Barnabas. So this is Barnabas. He's our common leopard gecko. And it's really cool because these guys are a little bit larger than some species of a gecko. So Barnabas is 16 years old, And these guys can approximately live for 20 years or even more, because in captivity, you have really good care with them, right? Like veterinarians and such. So you want to be very careful when you're taking care of a gecko. Now, he's going to move a bit, so I might be a little preoccupied, but he has this big tail here. You have to be very careful with this tail. And the reason I tell you that is it stores a lot of fat inside the tail. Now, these guys use their tail as a defense for predators. So if a predator goes and grabs him by the tail, he can actually detach his tail. And then the tail will flap back and forth for about 30 minutes as he can get away. And this tail saves his life, because then the predator will attack the tail thinking it's a live animal, while Barnabas here will get away from it. And then the tail can regrow again. So whenever you're holding a common leopard gecko or gecko in general, you need to be very careful with them. You don't want to scare them or stress them out, because then they're going to drop their tail on you, and it's not really that fun for them to deal with. And then they're going to regrow their tail again. So that's why it's very important when we're holding Barnabas here that we're very gentle with him. Also, his little feet here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but they're not sticky. So there are some geckos out there, like the crested gecko, that has sticky pads on their feet, and it allows them to grab onto the wall and climb up. Now, the common leopard gecko, he has little tiny claws on his feet. So that's what helps him move around on the ground. So he doesn't have the ability to stick onto surfaces and climb up. He only has tiny little claws. That's his little feet there. And then when we're touching Barnabas here, we want to be very careful and just gently with one finger. Right? Yeah, you're a good boy. And he's giving you a big show here. Now, does anyone have any questions? We can do questions now.
There we go. I see Rory has a question for us. Rory, what's your question?
How long can they get up to, Kat?
Like how long can they grow?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is full size right here. So he's about 18 to 28 centimeters. So that's as long as he is. So it's about 2 hands. Yeah.
Alexander, what is your question?
Who is the predator of the gecko?
So this guy faces predators like snakes, foxes, and other large lizards.
Awesome. Natalia, what's your question, kiddo? Natalia and then Sasha.
Why do they don't have a grip on their feet?
Why don't they have grips on their feet? Well, I don't know exactly that kind of answer. These guys were just developed in this kind of way compared to the other ones. Just their adaptation had them grow little tiny claws instead of him developing the sticky feet. And the way he survives in his environment outside, he doesn't need to have the sticky feet. He just burrows down deep into the ground with his little claws compared to other geckos that can climb up surfaces.
Sasha, what's your question?
He said, what is the other predator?
What is the other predator of the gecko? So they just have lots of large lizards. So large lizards can go after them, and big snakes, and of course foxes. So the type of fox can go after these guys. He's just gonna chill on my arm. That's cool.
All right. I see Austin F has a question, and then Lacey. So Austin, what's your question?
Does the tail detach like a starfish's arm?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure how a starfish's arm detaches. These guys here, it just kind of pops off. That's why we have to be very careful when we're working with them too, because it can just fall right off of them. So when I'm holding him, I don't want to too much. I don't want to make that danger. That's when he'll just drop it. Not really sure how the mechanics work on that part with the tail.
Lacey, you have a question, kiddo.
Do their tails grow back exactly the same as before?
I wouldn't say they grow back exactly the same. There's probably a little bit of a difference, but our eyesight, we probably wouldn't see it. But I don't think it would be the exact same kind of tail, but it would be the same tail make.
Bowen.
How fast do they go?
So these little guys, they are extremely fast. That's why I got to keep a good eye on him when he's walking around on my hand. They can move up to 27 miles per hour for short distance speed.
So perhaps you already answered it, but how long does it take them to grow their tail back? Do you know?
Ooh, that is a very good question. We actually had an incident here a while ago with one of our geckos who did, like our zookeeper accidentally did scare him and he did drop the tail. I think it took about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks tops for them to completely grow back that tail. It's the same goes for iguanas too, like green iguanas. They also can drop their tail, and it takes a little bit longer because they're a bigger tail. We do have one of our female iguanas who's trying to grow her tail back still, and it's a very slow process with them.
All right, so we have a question in the comments from Zara and Angela. They're wondering, are they born live or in an egg?
Ah, that's a very good question. They are born in an egg.
And then Audrey wants to know, what do they eat?
What do they eat? So these guys eat a lot of insects. So they can eat spiders, centipedes, beetles, crickets, and mealworms.
James has a follow-up question to the egg question, is how many eggs can they lay at a time?
They can lay approximately 44 eggs.
That is a lot of eggs.
Yeah, well, it's almost the same like with turtles. So they have a lot of predators out there. So most of the time, those poor gecko babies, they won't make it, right? Because a lot of animals can eat those eggs. So it's a hard wild.
How good is their eyesight? So Jace wrote in the comments, how good is their eyesight? And then I see Claire and Ryan has his hand up. So how good is their
So their eyesight is actually pretty good. They can see just as well as cats can see. So these guys will come out around twilight, so the dusk period of the day, to hunt down their prey. So it's almost like nighttime vision, like a cat too. Like they can see pretty good, but they don't depend too much on their eyesight as more as their hearing. If you can see here, I can see his little, oh, he's moving just a little bit. He has these little holes on the side of his ears to listen. So their hearing is quite good as well because they need to hear those crickets.
Claire, Ryan, and John, one of you has a question.
How big are their eggs?
How big are their eggs? They're actually quite small. So they're about that big. Yeah. We don't have anybody here laying eggs. They're all boys.
Austin with a Y. What's your question?
Do they shed their skin?
They do shed their skin. So all reptiles can shed their skin, even turtles, they shed their scutes. So this guy, they do shed their skin about once a month. When they are juveniles, they'll shed it about twice a month because they're a lot younger. So they're going to be growing more. So more skin's going to be coming off of them than when they're an adult.
Claire, Ryan, and John have another question.
When they drop their tail, is there like blood with it or?
No, there's no blood with it when they drop their tail. But it's really quite interesting how they have the mobility. The tail almost acts like it's alive because it flaps around, but they don't have any blood when it comes off. But it is kind of shocking when you do see it come off. It did scare our zookeeper a bit when she startled him.
What's your question?
Why do they shed their skin?
Why don't shed the skin?
They shed their skin because either they're growing or they're just getting rid of dead skin. So, it's just like us as well. We're constantly losing skin, like little pieces, or when we have dry skin and it flakes off. It's the same kind of action as these guys. So when they have dead skin, they just flake it off, have new skin.
So Zara and Angela want to know, can they change their color?
Can they change their color? So this type of gecko does not change its color. This is the common leopard gecko. I don't remember the breed name of that gecko, but there is the tegu gecko who does change its color. Sometimes in its enclosure, it does camouflage into its colors. So that's pretty cool. So that's more the tegu gecko and some other little geckos that can do that, like the car insurance gecko, but not this guy. This is the coloring he gets, and it camouflages really well in the desert areas of his environment and the sand.
James would like to know, do they dig? And if so, how do they dig? Or how deep can they dig?
How deep do they dig? These little guys, they can burrow down deep into the ground. I'm not sure how far they can go.
Boys and girls, I am so glad that you were here with us today. I think that that is going to wrap up our time today. So I want to say thank you for coming, and remember that you can watch this video starting around 4 o'clock today on our Facebook page. It'll be there premiering, and then after that, it will be available anytime you want it.